So, welcome to the Platform Academy. We are thrilled to kick off this session right here today. And I am Sharon Barnes, your platform outbound product manager and today's host. And we have an incredible session lined up that I can't wait for us to dive into. But before we get started, a couple quick logistics to go over. First, these presentations are crafted with you in mind. And our goal is to inspire you with fresh ideas and practical use cases that elevate your understanding of our platform tools. So feel free to fire away with your questions during the presentation. Just remember to post them in the Q&A session so that our amazing panelists can address them. Plus, don't worry if you miss something. The session is being recorded and will be available in the next week or two on our community forum, the Platform Academy Forum. And we also want to make sure your voices are heard. So after the event, there will be a quick survey that helps us improve our content for everyone. So let us know what you think or what you're looking for as a topic. And of course, also there's a quick reminder to practice safe harbor. We might share some exciting new features today, so let's keep everything compliant with those best practices. So now let's get to the good stuff. I am thrilled to introduce our fantastic speaker, Derek Berland, who will take us through a journey for platform encryption. Go ahead and take it away.
Wow, a journey, Sharon. You're setting me up, right? That's a lot of pressure. All right. So thanks, Sharon, for the introduction. If anyone made it here via my LinkedIn post, I was toying with the idea of doing the entire presentation with a mouthful of candy to celebrate Halloween. Fortunately, after talking to my dentist, they think that would be a bad idea. And then they told me I need to floss more. But that's neither here or there. Let's go ahead and dive right into platform encryption. First, I'll introduce you to platform encryption, what the major drivers are for implementing it, and what are those features. Secondly, what you all came for is the common scenarios, how we're seeing current customers utilize those features. We will then go over what was new in Zurich release and demo those capabilities. And then finally, we'll leave some time for Q&A at the end, but feel free to ask questions throughout utilizing that Q&A feature in Zoom. All right, so before we get started specifically with platform encryption, I just wanted to make sure to point out that platform encryption is part of our Vault suite. This suite includes protection of data from discovering sensitive data to restricting the access based on risk, and finally managing that visibility into that data with platform encryption. When talking to some of our customers across different industries, a few common themes or challenges came up with protecting data. Some of that we touched on in the poll. First, how do I protect sensitive data without impacting the functionality of the platform? We've all heard that the best way to protect data on a computer is to tie a brick to it and throw it in the deepest part of the ocean. That does an amazing job with protection, not so much for functionality. Secondly, how do I comply with security mandates, compliance, and/or regulatory standards without breaking that user experience? We want security to, yes, be secure, but also be behind the scenes to everyday users. And finally, there are different profiles of users, some internal, some external. How do I make sure I am only sharing the data I want to share to those in which I choose to share it? I like to think of ServiceNow as a living platform. For a lot of our customers, they're adding new use cases and even new workflows into the platform. This changes the type of data we retain and changes the ways we need to secure it. By adding HR workflow, you have now internal employee PII data. By adding CSM, you may now have external customer PII. And adding SecOp now adds vulnerability data, which you definitely do not want exposed. And the list goes on. With increasingly sensitive data being collected and stored, it's important to stay compliant, but also give you that peace of mind to implement new workflows to meet new business requirements. And that's why we have available platform encryption. So platform encryption is a bundle of encryption capabilities for multiple layers of risk. We have cloud encryption, which is a data at rest encryption meant for the data center to stay compliant. Secondly, we have Field Encryption Enterprise. This is an app-based encryption, which is meant to be more targeted and more granular type of encryption. So when so with cloud encryption, the common use case really is for compliance. However, it does come with the added bonus of flexible key management. So you can supply your own key, you can manage the rotation and revocation to match your own key management process. We will get on what that looks like in one of the customer scenarios coming up. So just stay tuned. With field encryption, it's more granular capabilities. Instead of encrypting the entire database like cloud encryption, you can now choose specific fields, giving you that option to choose which type of users or groups have access to specific types of data within a table. Utilizing it as encryption-backed access control allows you to control the visibility into certain data, even if the user inadvertently is given access to the data, giving you that layered defense that helps meet regulations like GDPR, HIPAA, and PCI. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the common scenarios we see from our customers. The first customer needs the ability to encrypt all data stored in the instance and also needs the ability to revoke keys if necessary. This is a job made specifically for cloud encryption, which will provide that encryption for the whole database. It also provides the ability to withdraw and resupply keys. So the first step after getting an entitlement, you would need to enable cloud encryption. This request is made via a now support service catalog request. In the request, you'll be asked to provide a 1 hour window in which it can be enabled. This is done because within that 1 hour window that you specify, there'll be no longer than about a 15-minute downtime while it's being enabled. But that's it. Boom, your instance is encrypted. Definitely a very quick time to value with cloud encryption. But it is important to note, in order to make changes to encryption policies, it requires a specific key management role that is enabled during implementation. The admin role, or even admin with an elevated role, will not be able to make changes to encryption policies. So it's best to identify those users who can make changes and assure they have those roles in the system. So upon enablement, you will be provided with a ServiceNow key. So if you want to bring your own key, you will need to go up and update it with your own managed key. You'll then be set up, you'll have to set up what is called a quorum control policy. This is basically a change management process where you name a group of approvers that will be needed in order to start a key revocation process. Before going through a withdraw and resupply key, we do fully recommend reading any documentation on the process so you can make sure that you're doing this step by step and that you're not going to lose any data or make data unavailable during this process. So the second scenario is you need to encrypt PHI data stored within a specific field utilizing your own private key. When we get to the demo, you will see a brief look at this process within Field Encryption Enterprise. But first, once you're entitled, you'll need to enable the Field Encryption Enterprise plugin. Then you would set up the key attributes in what is called a cryptographic module. So this is where you kind of set up what is that key, what is the life cycle of that key, those type of things. That's also where you can also change the key from a ServiceNow key to your own key. So after that, you would set up a module access policy, or commonly referred to as a map. So this defines who and what can utilize encryption key you just created. Finally, you will set up those field configurations, which you're kind of naming that table, and within that table, which column or even which row within that table contains the PHI data. That way, now only the people with that key that you set up in your map will have access to those fields within the table. So let's look at kind of the new features within platform encryption for the recent Zurich release. In the previous release, we recently replaced product the product column level encryption with field encryption. We did this in order to enhance our encryption backed access controls. So with the Zurich release, we're taking that next step by introducing row level conditions. Previously, with column level encryption, you were able to define custom encryption rules for specific columns. However, managing keys across multiple teams and records within a shared column can be complex. And it could inadvertently expose different teams to restricted data, causing security risk and compliance issues. Or it could go the other way around. People who needed access to that data didn't have access because of those set encryption rules. With our newest enhancement, row level encryption, now gives you the ability to assign a key to protect data at the individual row level within a column. This ensures that not only the eyes you deem necessary to see the data will have visibility into it. So, in short, row level encryption gives you that capability to define encryption rules based on dynamic conditions, not only for specific columns, but for rows within those columns, so sensitive data is protected with precision. So let's go ahead and check out a demo. Go ahead and check out the new feature row conditions. But first, let's review how to set up an encryption policy. The first step, we must create a key. We do this by creating what's called a cryptographic module. This is where we're going to create the key and define the functionality for that key, such as the key type or the key lifecycle. As you can see, we set up a symmetric key, and our origin is ServiceNow. Next step is setting up the module access policy. This is where we're going to define who or what has the ability to access data that is encrypted by the key we just created. As you can see, we're giving the role of admin, since that's what I'm signed in as a moment, access to the data that will be encrypted with the key we have created. Now finally, we're going to configure the fields we want to encrypt. We first define what column and what table we want. You can see we've chosen to encrypt the short description field within the incident table. Most description fields commonly hold the most detail to any case or incident, so it is common we want to restrict visibility to those fields. Now the new feature for Zurich, row conditions. Because we have a shared table, and some users require access to some of the short descriptions, but maybe not all, we're going to limit visibility at the row level. Here we have created a row condition that states, since we gave access for the admin user to read short descriptions if the department is HR by using the HR key we created, however, the department is information technology, they will need a different key specifically for that data, which at this time the admin user I'm logged in under does not have access to. So let's see what this looks like in the incident table. We have two incidents here, as you can see. The short description for the incident with the Department Human Resources is visible. However, the short description field with the Department Information Technology is hidden. Let's go ahead and click into the Human Resources incident. As you can see, down in the short description, you see a lock. That's showing you that this field is encrypted. Row level encryption now gives us the ability to encrypt specific rows in a shared table, giving us even more precision with our encryption rules. Wow, you can really tell that was recorded on a different date because it seems like I've had a lot more coffee this morning than I did when I recorded that. So I'm sorry for the tone adjustment there for that. But as you can see, in summation, platform encryption brings a unique value. First of all, with its flexible key management, being able to bring your own key, rotate your own key, and even withdraw and resupply a key. Secondly, is ensuring that usability by ensuring only users you deem necessary to have visibility into certain types of data will have access to that data. We spoke about that layered approach that if users have been inadvertently given access to data, Having that next level of encryption will assure they cannot view the data without those proper permissions. And finally, being one SKU, either at platform encryption or within the Vault suite of products, it is easy to purchase. So thank you for your time. And now let's go ahead and open it up for some questions.
I see a question in the chat. If we switch keys, would it actually apply to existing data or only to future/new data?
It really depends on how you switch the key, right? So if you rotate a key, the key that you rotated from is still alive, right? So that's actually still the key that's encrypting the data previous. So if you rotate to a new key, that new key is encrypting data moving forward. Now, if you revoke a key or basically kill the key, that's a bigger issue. So what you have to do first is first do like a mass decryption job. So you kind of make sure that it's all not encrypted, and then you kind of kill that key, remove it, enter a new key, and then run a mass encryption job. And that way that key is actually revoked. So you generally only want to revoke a key if it's been compromised in some way. Traditionally, you just want to do a scheduled rotation, like a rotation every 6 weeks, 8 weeks, once a quarter, what have you, kind of based on your own key management policies. To revoke a key, you generally just want to do that if something is wrong with that key and needs to be revoked.
Thank you, Derek. Next question I see on the Q&A. Why would we want to use additional encryption features? Is a platform not secure without them? It's one of my favorite questions.
Yeah. So there is definitely parts of the platform that we build with security in mind. I think the reason we add an added on encryption is we do have customers who just don't keep sensitive data within their environment. So they don't really need that encryption, right? So the reason we kind of do it in this kind of stages is because we want to give the options for you to opt into encryption instead of you paying for it out of the box for the customers who generally don't need it.
Thank you. Next question I see. For an encryption on a catalog variable, can we set permissions based on assignment group?
Probably half you can. I would have to get back to you on kind of what that looks like. We'll go ahead and put our my contact details in the chat so you can kind of reach out and I can kind of answer that. I know you can do it by that group. There is a special way of doing that since the drop down menu when you are selecting it is more scope, it's more script and role based. So it's kind of that user and machine side of it, but there is a way to do the group within that. I just need to kind of double check on how you would do that.
Great. We'll drop your contact information. The next question, if you perform these actions in a sub-production instance, does it get overwritten in a clone?
Ooh, that's a good question too. That's something I'll probably have to
I'm
follow
going to
up
say
on as
no
well.
on that one
Yeah.
because if you turn on field encryption, because when you do the clone, you're just cloning the data into the field. And if you've configured that subprod to encrypt that field, yeah, you're sending in the plain text, but then it's going to get encrypted because I don't think it's a directly going into the SQL. I think it's still going through the platform, so it's going to encrypt it.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Is there any other questions? I don't see anything in the chat. Q&A. I think we answer them.
And Mari's going to put my contact information in. So feel free, if you have questions beyond today, feel free to kind of reach out and ask, right? We're all around to kind of answer these questions. All right. And so I will go and head it back to Mari. Am I giving it to you or Sharon or somebody?
Ooh, we had one more question come in, Derek, if you want
One more
if you want to take
question.
this. Yeah,
Okay.
when would you use cloud encryption and when would you use edge encryption?
So actually, with cloud encryption, that's for the whole database. We've actually, for the data in, which is a data at rest for cloud encryption, edge encryption was a data in motion encryption. However, we did stop selling that and we did end of life that edge encryption. So it's not available anymore. There is other ways that you can do the data in motion encryption. It really depends on the use case in which you're utilizing it. So once again, if you have more questions or you have a specific use case around that, please feel free to reach out.
And there's another question coming in from Paul. It says, it's not clear to me why we use this. Can you give us some examples?
Use
Paul, do
which
you mean, yeah. What do you mean, Paul? Do you mean cloud encryption? Feel free to come off mute.
I would say for cloud encryption, the big driver is going to be compliance, right? Because we have some customers who are in regulated industries, for example, or maybe they have their own internal security policies that just say like everything has to be encrypted at rest. And so that's where cloud encryption comes in. That is your full on, everything is encrypted. I can satisfy the auditor. When you get into field encryption, the two places that I can see that coming up, the two places that really stick out to me are number one, as a stopgap against accidentally exposing data that shouldn't be. We already have platform security controls to make it so that Derek can only see what Derek is supposed to see, but we also know that it is a legitimate concern that you could accidentally open up an ACL and expose something. And so by using encryption backed access controls with field encryption, that gives us a second layer to say like, okay, we accidentally opened up that ACL, but people still were not able to view it because of the module access policy. And then taking that a step further, one of the things that I like to say is that Vault is for the people who say, what if? And when you think about something like a SQL injection vulnerability that might expose the database, allowing someone to dump a database, right? I think that we have really good controls to make sure something like that doesn't come out to production. But tools like this are for the people who say, that's great, but what if you don't? What if you missed something, right? Having those values actually encrypted in the database itself means that even if somebody did dump that database table, they would still be getting encrypted gibberish in those fields that you've chosen to encrypt. And now with the addition of row conditions, we can take that even a step further to say, like, if your policy, for example, is that people who are like, if you have customers in Germany and they should be having their data encrypted with a Germany specific key, whereas I want my US customers encrypted with a US key, that's something that we're only going to be able to do with the field level encryption because cloud encryption is just applying to that whole storage volume. So when we really want to get granular to say, I want to treat this data differently than the way I treat that other data, that's where field encryption is gonna be a requirement, really. Derek, what do you think of my answers on that?
That was perfect. Yeah. Yeah, that was perfect.
Paul, I hope that was a good answer for you. If not, I put Derek's contact information on the chat. If you want to reach out, feel free. There's another question that I see coming here. What are the top mistakes made by implementing CLE Enterprise? Column level encryption enterprise.
So with a column level encryption enterprise, so that's moved now into the field encryption enterprise. Common mistakes is really at the forefront and the prepping for that, right? Is understanding what data needs to be encrypted and where does it live, right? So one, that's a great segue into Vault, right? That does that data discovery for you. Another is we see it's not really a mistake, right? It's more is realizing what steps to take because you do have to set the key first, manage that key, set those key attributes, and then set the map and then set the the policies, right? So, or the kind of the configurations of the field encryption. So it's understanding how that flow works within that and not having to go back and forth and switch going about that. So really it's the preparedness of it, and then kind of just the steps, taking the steps in the order those steps are required.
Great, thank you. I do not see any other questions. Any more questions for the audience? I see another one. Okay. How does this affect the current field encryption for passwords?
I think you're asking about the password to fields. Is that probably what we're thinking here?
Paul, are you there?
I'm going to guess that that's what it means is, does this have any effect on password to fields? And the answer is no, it doesn't. Password to is still password to. Really, the difference I think between field encryption and password to is that a password to field, you're using our key. Like ServiceNow generates that key. And whereas with field encryption, you're saying, okay, I want to have the ability to bring my own key, or I want the ability to use different keys for different rows. I want the ability to rotate that key at my pleasure. Whereas password to, I think, is your very you could almost think of it as the even more free version of field encryption. That'd be my answer. Derek, anything you would add to what I said there, or?
No, that's exactly what I was thinking too, right? Is the password two is kind of the out of the box, right? From that.
All right, there's a few other questions coming in. Any playbooks, best practice guides you can recommend?
But we do, for the implementation process, we do have a couple different um, I guess attributes that you can use. We do have a process, kind of a process workshop document that kind of lays out the process on how to set up field encryption, kind of takes you step by step through that. We also have it in kind of a presentation form, right? Which is a kind of that process workshop presentation as well, that takes you step by step. Best practices tends to be a little tough because it's so highly dependent on kind of your use cases, and it's almost like a snowflake. Customers are a little bit different from that. Now, if you want to have conversations, this is what I'm trying to do, we'll definitely have those conversations with you.
Two more questions showed up. Did you say that edge encryption is no longer an option or has been removed? Should we remove that attribute from any of our records?
So yes, so it's end of life or end of renewal. It's still being supported, so you can continue using it. But what I would recommend is, as you're coming up on your renewal, kind of reach out to your account rep and start making a plan on how you're going to replace that, right? And kind of what that use case is. Is it going to be able to be replaced by field encryption based on your use case? Are you going to have to use a third party, from that standpoint? So reaching out pretty early on that will be beneficial. But yes, when it comes up for renewal, it's kind of end of renewal and will no longer be offered.
Great, thank you for that, Derek. Two more questions. I know I keep saying that. Is there an encryption evaluation tool we can run for our instance, like a health scan?
Now, we do have health scans, and we also have what I would recommend is actually on our data privacy product. We do have a 30-day trial of that. That's going to let you know, do you have that data that needs to be encrypted within, right? And that's kind of what you want to see is like, hey, you know what? I've had ServiceNow for going on 10 years now. We've changed our use cases, we've changed our workflows. I don't know now if I have or what PII I have in my system. That's a great time to kind of take that 30-day check within data privacy and see exactly what you have in there and what kind of encryption you need from that. So that's what I would recommend as a health check, actually.
Great, thanks, Derek. One more question. Do you have a link to process workshop?
Is there a way to send it after the webinar is done?
We
I
can
do have it.
probably
I
do
just,
that. Well, I'll just
yeah.
write down your information, James.
Yeah, we'll send you that link.
Any other questions? I think that might be it. Sharon, you want to take it away?
Be glad to. Thank you all for joining us today, both to our amazing panelists for the expertise you bring, as well as to our attendees. You are the reason we hold these sessions, so we love having your questions, having your feedback, and having your insights. You have already found our Platform Academy. We have several other amazing academies as well, from the Analytics Academy, AI Academy, and Process Mining Academy. In fact, next week we will be having a crossover session and having one of our process mining experts coming to join this academy for an intro to it. On to our next slide. We have the opportunity to give feedback. If you would like to let us know what you are thinking about the ServiceNow platform and how we can do better, do take the opportunity to use either the QR code or the website to bring that to our attention. And then next, we've got our future sessions. There have been a couple updates for this. So this Thursday, I will be doing our Now Assist Readiness Evaluation, brand new store app that has gone out and just helps identify what is the fastest path to value for Now Assist for your instance. We've got our process mining on Thursday or Tuesday of next week. And then I do have to say our 13th session, so the session on the 13th has been canceled due to conflicts internally, and our session on the 25th has been adjusted to the 20th. So we will get those updates out to our blog for you to see in the future. And then on to our next slide. If you're looking for more resources for ServiceNow, do take advantage of either Impact, ServiceNow University, or our amazing expert services. And other than that, unless we've had any other questions, once again, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you all have a beautiful day.
Thank you, everyone.